Hi guys. You have done an excellent job with completing Chapter 9 over the Progressive Era. Iron Jawed Angels has given us a great segue into our next unit, Chapter 11, Section 1, as World War I, or the Great War, as it is often called, begins. World War I began in Europe in 1914, and after much debate, Congress in the United States voted in favor of President Wilson's request to join the war in April of 1917. Although many Americans wanted to stay out of the war, several factors made American neutrality difficult to maintain. As an industrial and imperial power, the United States felt many of the same pressures that had led the nations of Europe into devastating warfare. Historians generally refer to four primary long-term causes of the First World War. The first cause was nationalism. Nationalism is defined as a devotion to the interests and culture of one's nation. Often, nationalism led to competitive and antagonistic rivalries among nations. In this atmosphere of competition, many feared Germany's growing power in Europe. In addition, there was a number of different groups and nation-states wanting better conditions and a way out of extreme poverty caused by dominant rulers. The plea for independence led many ethnic groups to turn to larger nations for protection. For example, Russia regarded itself as the protector of Europe's Slavic people, no matter which government they lived under. Nationalism also led to the unification of major Axis powers, Italy and Germany, while weakening the Eastern European empires of Austria-Hungary, Russia, and Ottoman Turkey. The Archduke of Franz Ferdinand traveled to Sarajevo in June of 1914 to inspect the imperial armed forces in former Ottoman territories, who believed that they should belong to newly independent Serbian nation. On June 28, 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were touring Sarajevo when a Serbian nationalist threw a bomb at the car. Later that day, another nationalist saw the couple in another car and shot them both at point-blank range. Later that day, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, and the already fragile peace between Europe's great powers had collapsed. Due to the unrestricted national sovereignty came international conflict. Without an international means of intervention, nationalism, in turn, was considered one of the primary causes of the Great War. The next major cause of World War I was imperialism. For many countries, as you all have learned, nations including Europe had been building empires, slowly extending their economic and political control over various peoples of the world. Colonies supplied the European imperial powers with raw materials and provided markets for manufactured goods. As Germany industrialized, it competed with France and Britain in the contest for colonies. Again, a continuation of what you learned in Chapter 10. Nations are always interested in expanding. Another major cause was militarism. Empires were not cheap. Not only did they require building, they also required to be maintained, and that to maintain an empire, you have to defend it. The growth of nationalism and imperialism led to increased military spending. Because each nation wanted stronger armed forces than those of any potential enemy, the imperial powers followed the policy of militarism, which was the development of armed forces and their use as a tool of diplomacy. As Germany became unified as one nation, by 1890 they had built the strongest nation in Europe. Germany set up an army reserve system that drafted and trained young men into their military. Because Britain is an island nation, they were not initially alarmed by Germany's military expansion. Britain had always relied on its navy for defense and protection of its shipping routes, and the British Navy was the strongest in the world. However, of course, in 1897, Germany's empire decided that he also wanted to become a major sea power, and in order to compete more successfully against the British, this is what he would need to do. Soon, the British and German shipyards, or Great Britain and German shipyards, competed to build the largest battlefields and destroyers. France, Italy, Japan, and the United States quickly joined the naval arms race. On May 1st, 1915, the Lusitania left port in New York for Liverpool across the Atlantic Ocean. There were about 2,000 people altogether on board, and 159 of them were Americans. Since the outbreak of World War I, ocean voyage had become very dangerous. Each side hoped to blockade the other, thus preventing any war materials getting through. German U-boats stalked British waters, continually looking for vessels to sink. On May 7, 1915, a German U-boat spotted the ship and immediately launched a torpedo. The United States was outraged to learn that 128 Americans were killed in a war in which they were officially neutral. The sinking of the Lusitania heightened tensions between the United States and Germany and also helped sway American opinion in favor of joining the war. The fourth primary cause of World War I is the alliance system. By 1907, there were two major defense alliances in Europe. The Allies consisted of France, Britain, and Russia. The Triple Alliance consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Germany and Austria-Hungary, together with the Ottoman Empire, an empire of mostly Middle Eastern lands controlled by the Turks, were later known as the Central Powers. The alliances provided a measure of international security because nations were reluctant to disturb the balance of power. A telegraph that was from the German foreign minister to the German ambassador in Mexico, though, helped prove different. The Zimmermann note, which was intercepted by British agents, proposed an alliance between Mexico and Germany and promised that if war with the United States broke out, Germany would support Mexico in recovering lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Germany hoped to get Mexico involved, causing the United States to not only join the war, but have to join the war fighting on two different fronts. In 1914, early in the war, prior to both the sinking of the Lusitania and the Zimmermann note, most Americans saw no reason to join a struggle 3,000 miles away. The war did not threaten American lives or property, which is another example of isolationism. This did not mean, however, that individual Americans were indifferent to who would win the war. Public opinion was strong, but still very divided. Socialists criticized the war as a capitalist and imperialist struggle between Germany and England to control markets and colonies in China, Africa, and the Middle East. Pacifists, such as lawyer and politician William Jennings Bryan, should ring a bell, believed that war was evil and that the United States should set an example of peace to the world. Many Americans simply did not want their sons to experience the horrors of warfare, and most importantly, Americans' economic ties with the Allies were far stronger than its ties with the Central Powers. The United States shipped millions of dollars of war supplies to the Allies, but requests kept coming. By 1915, the United States was experienced a labor shortage. Additional information important to note about the Great War are the fighting tactics that took place. Trench warfare, in which armies fought for mere yards of ground, continued for 3 solid years during the Great War. Between the trenches lay what was called no man's land, a barren expanse of mud, pogmargeted with shell craters and filled with barbed wire. Periodically, the soldiers charged enemy lines, only to be mowed down by machine gun fire. The Battle of Somme, which was fought between Germany and Britain and France on the other side, is one example of a battle that had trenches lasting 7 miles long, and in the end, it had over 1 million casualties in the first day alone. Poisonous gas warfare was another example used in World War I of warfare, first being led off by the Germans in 1915. The Allies also set off poisonous gases in retaliation. In 1925, using gases such as these was banned by an agreement known as the Geneva Protocol. By 1917, after the sinking of Lusitania and the Zimmermann note, along with unrestricted submarine warfare against the United States merchant vessels, Finally, events in Russia moved the last significant obstacle to direct United States involvement in the war. In March, the oppressive Russian monarchy was replaced with a representative government. This is extremely significant because now supporters of American entry into the war could claim this was a war of democracies against brutal monarchies. On April 2nd, 1917, United States Congress declared a state of war to help pave the way for a future order of peace and freedom.